Picture a realm forged by the most relentless forces on the planet, a domain where the air itself is a weapon, slicing through fur and feather with a chill so deep it seems to seep into the bones of the land. The horizon stretches endlessly, a seamless expanse of white and blue where the sun's rays scatter off crystalline snow, creating a blinding, almost surreal brilliance. Here, silence reigns, so profound that the only interruptions are the distant thunder of glaciers carving into the sea or the faint, eerie whistle of wind, sculpting the snow into ever-changing forms. In these polar extremes, the Arctic Ocean is crowned by a restless, ever-shifting mosaic of sea ice, fractured and reassembled by the ceaseless push and pull of wind and current. Antarctica, in stark contrast, is a continent encased in a fortress of ancient ice, its mountainous core buried beneath kilometers of frozen water. This is the thickest ice sheet on Earth, a colossal shield that conceals entire mountain ranges and labyrinthine valleys, untouched and unseen for millions of years, their secrets locked away beneath the crushing weight of eons. Temperatures in these regions are not simply cold, they are alien. In the heart of Antarctica, the mercury plummets to -89.2 degrees Celsius, a record so severe that moisture in the breath crystallizes instantly, and the air itself seems to freeze. The landscape glows with an ethereal spectral light as the sun hovers at the horizon, painting the snow in fleeting shades of violet and gold before vanishing for months, plunging the world into a darkness so complete it feels eternal. The Antarctic Plateau is a domain of perpetual frost, where katabatic winds, dense, frigid air masses, plunge from the heights, scouring the surface and sculpting the snow into razor-sharp ridges called sastrugi. Here, snow never melts. It accumulates year after year, compressing into ancient ice that holds the memory of climates long vanished, each layer a frozen page in the planet's history. Glaciers, immense rivers of slow-moving ice, grind inexorably across the land, their crushing weight pulverizing rock into fine glacial flour. The sea itself becomes a fortress, its surface sealed by slabs of ice meters thick, isolating the ocean's depths from the world above and creating a barrier that only the most specialized forms of life can penetrate. Beneath this frozen armor, the ocean is a realm of perpetual twilight, where the sun's warmth never reaches. The Antarctic Plateau is a vast, wind-lashed desert where snowdrifts are sculpted into jagged ridges that stretch for kilometers. The only sound is the relentless howl of the wind, a force that shapes the land as surely as ice and time. Here the air is so dry and cold that even bacteria struggle to survive, and the landscape is stripped to its elemental essence, ice, wind, and silence. In the Arctic, the tundra stretches as a boundless, treeless expanse, its surface locked in permafrost that has remained frozen for millennia. Beneath the snow, ancient plant matter and the remnants of vanished creatures are preserved in a timeless embrace, shielded from decay by the unyielding cold. The ground is a vault of the past, holding secrets of vanished worlds. The cold of the Arctic rivals that of the Antarctic, with months of unbroken darkness and temperatures that plunge below -40 degrees Celsius. Only the most extraordinary adaptations allow life to persist. Every organism here is a marvel of resilience, shaped by the demands of the deep freeze. The land is locked in a cycle of extremes where survival is a daily battle against the elements. Rivers become ribbons of solid ice, their currents stilled beneath a crystalline shell. Mountains are shrouded in snow, their peaks lost in swirling clouds, while valleys transform into frozen corridors where only the hardiest forms of life endure the relentless cold. The landscape is a study in contrasts, brutal yet breathtakingly beautiful. In Greenland, the Pittorak, a wind of legendary ferocity, sweeps across the ice cap, sculpting the snow into intricate, ever-changing patterns. These winds can reach hurricane force, driving temperatures even lower and reshaping the landscape in a matter of hours. The raw power of the atmosphere is on full display, a reminder that in these regions, weather is both creator and destroyer. Sunrises in these regions are rare and otherworldly. When the sun finally returns after months of darkness, it casts long, spectral shadows across jagged cliffs and frozen plains, igniting the world in fleeting shades of pink, gold, and indigo. The light is sharp and pure, transforming the landscape into a realm of ephemeral beauty before the sun retreats once more behind the horizon. Emperor penguins endure the Antarctic night by forming dense living shields against the wind, their bodies pressed together in a seamless mass, each individual taking turns on the outer edge, braving the cold before retreating to the warmth of the group's core. Their feathers are layered and coated in oil, a perfect armor against the elements, allowing them to survive where few others can. Seals, such as the Weddell and ringed varieties, are insulated by thick layers of blubber, a reservoir of both warmth and energy. Their blood vessels are arranged in intricate patterns to minimize heat loss, and they can slow their heartbeats to conserve oxygen during long, silent dives beneath the ice. In the darkness below, they navigate a labyrinth of submerged ice, surfacing through breathing holes that freeze over in minutes if left unattended. The polar bear, sovereign of the Arctic, is a master of thermal efficiency. Its black skin absorbs the faintest warmth, while translucent fur traps heat close to the body. Wide, furred pores distribute weight across fragile ice and provide traction on the slick surface. Beneath the ice, Arctic cod and Antarctic icefish glide through near-frozen water, their blood laced with antifreeze proteins that prevent lethal ice crystals from forming. These adaptations are the difference between life and death in a world where the margin for error is razor-thin. Some fish, like the Antarctic toothfish, have evolved remarkable proteins that bind to ice crystals, halting their growth and allowing these creatures to thrive in water colder than the freezing point of their own blood, a feat unmatched in the animal kingdom. In these frigid depths, life is a constant negotiation with the cold, every heartbeat a triumph over the elements. Musk, oxen and caribou are armored against the cold with 2 layers of fur, a dense insulating undercoat and a coarse protective outer layer. This dual system traps air, forming a barrier that holds precious warmth close to the body. Their hooves are sharp and broad, perfect for digging through snow to reach the sparse vegetation hidden beneath. In the endless winter, every adaptation is a lifeline. Reindeer possess nasal passages that warm each breath, reclaiming heat from exhaled air and minimizing energy loss. Their hollow fur traps air for extra insulation, and their metabolism shifts with the seasons, conserving energy during the long, dark winter. Every detail of their physiology is tuned to the demands of survival in a world where warmth is fleeting and precious. Life here is orchestrated by the rhythm of the seasons. Brief, explosive summers ignite a frenzy of activity, while the endless winter demands patience and ingenuity. Arctic ground squirrels descend into true hibernation, their body temperatures dropping below freezing, their hearts slowing to a near standstill as they wait for the return of the sun. The pulse of life is slow, measured, and deliberate. Snowy owls and Arctic hares transform with the seasons, their plumage and fur shifting from brown to white, blending seamlessly with the snow. The Arctic hare's compact form conserves heat, while its powerful legs propel it across the frozen landscape in search of food and shelter. Every movement is calculated, every adaptation a response to the merciless cold. Water, the essence of life, becomes a sculptor of beauty and challenge. Ice crystals form intricate, fractal patterns, and waterfalls freeze in mid-cascade, suspended in time. Beneath the ice, microbial life endures, drawing energy from minerals in the darkness, thriving where no sunlight ever reaches. Even in the most inhospitable corners, life finds a way to persist. Lemmings carve tunnels beneath the snow, creating a hidden labyrinth that shields them from predators and the cold. This sub-Nivean world, a thin, insulated layer between earth and snow, becomes a sanctuary where small mammals remain active through the harshest months. The snow is both barrier and refuge, a paradox of survival. The Arctic fox is a paragon of adaptation with a compact body, short ears, and dense, multi-layered fur that traps heat. Its paws are thickly furred, acting as natural snowshoes and providing insulation against the frozen ground. In the depths of winter it prowls the ice, ever alert for the faintest sign of prey beneath the snow. Wolves traverse the snow in coordinated packs, relying on endurance and cooperation to pursue elusive prey across the vast frozen wilderness. Penguin chicks, born into the Antarctic winter, are swaddled in down and protected by the warmth of the colony, while adults rotate tirelessly to shield and nourish the next generation. The struggle for survival is unending, a testament to the power of unity and adaptation. Every adaptation in these frozen worlds is a testament to the relentless ingenuity of nature. Countercurrent heat exchange in limbs preserves warmth, while torpor and hibernation allow survival through the longest, darkest nights. In this world of extremes, life is not merely a matter of endurance. It is a story of transformation, innovation, and the raw, unyielding power of nature. Here, in the heart of the deep freeze, existence is both fragile and fierce, shaped by the elemental forces that define the very edge of possibility. The polar regions are laboratories of evolution, where the relentless cold and shifting ice have sculpted life into forms of astonishing ingenuity. Here, every organism is a master of adaptation, each survival strategy a product of millions of years of natural engineering. As the climate transforms, these adaptations are tested and, in some cases, pushed to new extremes. The awakening tundra is a living archive of resilience. As permafrost thaws, dormant spores and seeds, some thousands of years old, germinate, revealing genetic blueprints for cold tolerance. Mosses and lichens among the first colonizers produce unique sugars and polyols that stabilize their cells against freezing. Their symbiotic relationships allow them to photosynthesize in near darkness and survive desiccation, while their slow growth forms microhabitats for invertebrates and microbes. Polar bears are equipped with a suite of physiological marvels. Their black skin absorbs solar radiation, while their translucent fur scatters light, maximizing heat retention. Their paws, covered in papillae and tiny cavities, provide traction on slick ice. Walruses, meanwhile, possess a countercurrent heat exchange system in their flippers, minimizing heat loss as they haul out on ice. Their vibrissae, highly sensitive whiskers, can detect the faintest movements of prey beneath the sediment, even in total darkness. The Arctic fox's metabolism shifts with the seasons, entering a state of torpor during food scarcity. Its fur changes not only color, but structure, with denser underfur in winter and a lighter, more breathable coat in summer. Lemmings, their primary prey, have teeth that grow continuously to cope with abrasive tundra vegetation, and their burrowing aerates the soil, influencing plant growth. Snowy owls possess a facial disc of feathers that channels sound to their ears, allowing them to pinpoint prey beneath snow or vegetation. In the sub-ice world, jellyfish have evolved antifreeze glycoproteins, preventing ice crystals from forming in their tissues. Some species can revert to earlier life stages, effectively resetting their life cycle to survive harsh conditions. Arctic cod, a keystone species, possess specialized hemoglobin variants that function efficiently at low oxygen levels and near-freezing temperatures. Expanding kelp forests act as ecosystem engineers, dampening wave energy and providing shelter for juvenile fish and invertebrates. Antarctic krill have evolved the ability to shrink in size during food shortages, reducing metabolic demands. Their compound eyes are adapted to detect the faintest light beneath thick ice, guiding their vertical migrations. Penguins, such as the emperor and Adelie, have solid bones that reduce buoyancy, enabling deep dives and a unique huddling behavior that conserves heat through communal thermoregulation. Seals possess myoglobin-rich muscles storing vast amounts of oxygen for extended underwater hunts. Adelie penguins synchronize their breeding with the retreat of sea ice, using pebbles to construct nests that elevate eggs above meltwater. Their eyes filter ultraviolet light, enhancing vision in the blinding glare of snow. Skuas, with their robust immune systems, thrive on a varied diet, switching between scavenging and predation as opportunities arise, and their aerial agility allows them to exploit shifting nesting grounds. Caribou and reindeer possess specialized enzymes that allow their muscles to function at low temperatures, and their hollow hair shafts trap air for insulation. Their circadian rhythms are uniquely adapted to polar light cycles, with hormonal changes triggered by subtle shifts in daylight. During migration, they use geomagnetic cues and olfactory memory to navigate vast, featureless landscapes. Swarms of mosquitoes and blackflies, now more abundant, drive behavioral adaptations such as synchronized carving and rapid movement. Bowhead whales have the largest baleen plates of any whale, filtering tiny zooplankton from icy waters. Their immense skulls are reinforced to break through thick sea ice for breathing. Narwhals' tusks are packed with millions of nerve endings, acting as sophisticated sensory organs that detect gradients in water chemistry, aiding navigation and foraging in a dynamic seascape. In the high-altitude cold, snow leopards' nasal passages are lined with mucous membranes that warm and humidify each breath, while their tails, thick with fat and fur, serve as both balance and insulation. Himalayan wolves have a unique mitochondrial DNA lineage, conferring adaptations for low-oxygen environments. Their social structures shift with prey availability, and their vocalizations carry across vast, open terrain, coordinating pack movements. Mosses and lichens secrete acids that weather rock, accelerating soil formation in barren landscapes. Fungi form intricate mycorrhizal networks, connecting plant roots and facilitating nutrient exchange even in nutrient-poor soils. Cold-adapted insects, such as Arctic bumblebees, generate heat by shivering their flight muscles, enabling pollination at temperatures near freezing. These microengineers drive the slow but persistent greening of the polar world. The polar regions are a living testament to nature's ingenuity. From the molecular antifreeze in fish blood to the synchronized migrations of caribou, every adaptation is a solution to the puzzle of survival. As the aurora dances above rivers of meltwater and the horizon glows with the promise of dawn, the story of life in the deep freeze continues, written in the genes, behaviors, and breathtaking resilience of every creature and plant that calls these extremes home. In the endless silence of the polar realms, where the wind sculpts the land and the sun's presence is a fleeting visitor, ancient wisdom is etched into every snowflake and every breath of icy air. Here, survival is not merely a struggle, it is a legacy, passed down through countless generations of creatures who have learned to read the language of the cold. The land itself is a living archive, preserving secrets in its frozen heart, and every animal is both a student and a teacher in the art of endurance. Caribou, with their ancient migratory routes, move in harmony with the subtle cues of the land, following the shifting scent of lichen beneath the snow, guided by the memory of generations. Emperor penguins, guardians of the Antarctic, have mastered the choreography of survival, their huddles a living fortress against the relentless blizzard. Each step, each rotation, is a lesson in unity, a testament to the power of collective endurance. Beneath the snow, the Arctic hare carves out a sanctuary, its burrow a testament to the insulating embrace of the frozen earth. The musk oxen, relics of the Ice Age, gather in ancient formations, their dense coats and defensive circles echoing strategies honed over millennia. In their breath, rising as mist in the frigid air, is the memory of winters survived and wisdom preserved. The Weddell seal, keeper of the under-ice world, maintains breathing holes with tireless patience, its whiskers dusted with frost as it surfaces for air. Adelie penguins, agile and unyielding, leap from the frigid sea onto shifting ice, their movements a dance of instinct and adaptation, navigating a labyrinth sculpted by ancient forces. Reindeer with hooves shaped by eons of winter dig through layers of snow to uncover the hidden bounty below. The snowy owl, silent as the falling snow, listens for the faintest tremor beneath the surface, its talons poised to claim a prize in the twilight. Each act is a page in the unwritten chronicle of survival. The Arctic tern, a voyager between worlds, traces a path from pole to pole, guided by the ancient rhythms of light and shadow. Its journey is a living thread, weaving together the wisdom of both hemispheres. The polar bear, sovereign of the ice, swims vast distances, its fur beaded with frozen droplets, a testament to the resilience written in its very bones. The land itself is a keeper of secrets. Lichen and moss, ancient pioneers, cling to bare rock and frozen soil, their slow growth a quiet defiance of the cold. Beneath them the permafrost holds stories older than memory, layers of ice and earth that have witnessed the rise and fall of glaciers, the migration of herds, and the silent passage of time. Above, the sky tells its own tales. The aurora borealis dances across the polar night, painting the darkness with ancient light, while the sun, during the endless day, circles the horizon, casting long shadows that stretch across the snow. These cycles of brilliance and darkness shape every heartbeat in the frozen wilds, dictating when to rest, when to hunt, and when to journey. Camouflage is a language spoken fluently here. The Arctic fox, master of disguise, shifts from brown to white as the seasons turn, vanishing into the snow or tundra. The ptarmigan, too, dons a cloak of invisibility, its feathers mirroring the landscape, a living echo of the land's shifting moods. The very elements are storytellers. Rivers freeze from the top down, preserving a secret world of life beneath the ice. Snowdrifts, shaped by the ceaseless wind, become both shelter and challenge, their forms shifting with every storm, their patterns a fleeting script written across the land. On the ice, walruses gather in ancient assemblies, their tusks anchoring them to the floes, their bodies pressed close for warmth and safety. Beneath the surface, krill swarm in the cold, feeding on algae that bloom in the brief light, forming the foundation of a food web as old as the ice itself. As the climate shifts, the land's wisdom is tested and rewritten. The red fox, once a stranger to these snows, now treads cautiously into new territory, adapting with each step. Pine trees, their needles shaped to shed the weight of snow, stand as sentinels at the forest's edge, their resilience a silent promise that life will endure, no matter how the world changes. The glaciers, ancient architects of the land, carve into the sea with thunderous grace, sending icebergs adrift on cold currents. These floating giants are more than frozen water. They are time capsules, preserving air and life from ages past, offering sanctuary to seals and resting places for birds. The Antarctic landscape, shaped by wind and ice, is a living monument to the endurance of the cold. In these untouched expanses, every track in the snow, every sunrise over the frozen horizon is a reminder of the ancient wisdom that guides all life here. The land remembers, the ice preserves, and the creatures endure, each a vital thread in the tapestry of survival, woven by the relentless hand of the cold and the quiet legacy of time. Beneath the relentless ice sheets of the Arctic and Antarctic, an astonishing world flourishes in perpetual twilight. Here, silence reigns, broken only by the distant groan of shifting ice and the faint rhythmic pulse of unseen currents. The frozen ceiling above is not merely a barrier, but a gateway to a labyrinthine realm where life, geology, and mystery intertwine in ways that defy imagination. In these shadowed depths, marine life has evolved in extraordinary ways. Fish glide through the icy water, their blood laced with antifreeze proteins that ward off the lethal embrace of the cold. Some possess transparent flesh, rendering them nearly invisible in the dim, blue-tinged gloom. Delicate invertebrates, with bodies like spun glass, drift on gentle currents, their forms sculpted by eons of adaptation to this frigid domain. When the polar night descends, bioluminescent organisms awaken, painting the darkness with ghostly blue and green glows. Their pulses ripple through the water, forming shifting constellations that guide and attract other creatures, creating a living tapestry of light in the abyss. Comb jellies, adorned with rows of iridescent cilia, drift silently through the water. Each movement refracts the faintest glimmers into dazzling rainbows, their bodies undulating with a hypnotic grace that seems almost otherworldly. Swarms of glowing plankton gather in the shadows, their collective light forming living galaxies beneath the ice. Each tiny organism pulses in synchrony, a silent chorus that illuminates the under-ice world. Antarctic krill, numbering in the trillions, move as one, their synchronized swarms creating vast, undulating clouds that ripple through the water. These living rivers of life are the heartbeat of the polar seas. These tiny crustaceans are the foundation of a complex food web, nourishing everything from nimble fish to the immense baleen whales that follow their migrations through the icy darkness. Above, the ice is a living, ever-shifting landscape. Cracks and shifting flows create intricate mosaics, while the underside of the ice forms jagged, alien terrain, ridges, hollows, and overhangs, sculpted by the relentless interplay of water and cold. Within the ice itself, brine channels snake through the frozen mass, forming a network of saline veins and pockets. These microhabitats are sanctuaries for specialized organisms, each adapted to thrive in the harsh, salty embrace of the ice. Here, cold-loving bacteria and resilient algae flourish, clinging to the briny walls and fueling the very base of the polar food web. Their presence transforms the ice into a living, breathing ecosystem. Microscopic plants, such as phytoplankton, bloom in the thin layers of light that filter through the ice, transforming the under-ice world into a hidden garden of emerald and gold. These plants sustain swarms of copepods and amphipods, tiny crustaceans that dart and spiral through the water, forming a vital link in the food chain and supporting a cascade of life above and below. The Weddell seal, a master of this icy labyrinth, glides effortlessly through submerged tunnels, its streamlined body built for endurance and stealth. It is a silent sentinel, perfectly attuned to the rhythms of this hidden world, with lungs capable of storing vast reserves of oxygen and a heart that slows to conserve energy. The seal can vanish beneath the ice for over an hour, navigating by memory and touch. It weaves through submerged passageways and chambers, sculpted by shifting ice and currents, exploring a world few eyes have ever seen. These tunnels, carved by the slow movement of water and the freeze-thaw cycle, form a maze of passageways and hidden chambers, each with its own unique microclimate and community of life. In the Arctic, the elusive narwhal glides through the darkness, using sophisticated echolocation to sense prey and navigate the inky depths. Its presence is a fleeting shadow, a whisper of the wild. Its spiraled tusk, a marvel of evolution, detects subtle changes in temperature and pressure, unlocking secrets of the water column invisible to other creatures. The narwhal is a living enigma, perfectly adapted to the mysteries of the deep. As the seasons shift and sunlight returns, beams of golden light pierce the ice, awakening the under-ice world from its long slumber. The transformation is sudden and spectacular. Algae blooms erupt in the meltwater, painting the ice with vibrant greens and fueling a surge of productivity that ripples through the ecosystem. Shoals of fish gather to feed, while the returning whales and seabirds signal the renewal of life in these remote seas. The under-ice world becomes a stage for a brief, dazzling spectacle of abundance. This fleeting explosion of life is a vital pulse in the polar calendar, sustaining countless species through the harsh months ahead. Beneath the ice, every organism is woven into a delicate, intricate web, each playing a role in the survival of the whole. The balance here is fragile yet enduring. The ice itself forms vast caves and arches, sculpted by tides and currents. In these shadowed halls, mysterious deep-sea creatures drift, some with gelatinous bodies, others armored in translucent plates, each a testament to the ingenuity of life in the cold. Deep below, hydrothermal vents and cold seeps punctuate the seafloor, releasing mineral-rich fluids into the darkness. Here, unique communities of tube worms, clams, and bacteria thrive, drawing energy not from sunlight, but from the chemical bounty of the earth itself. Brinicles, sinister, icy fingers, descend from the sea ice, freezing everything in their path and creating surreal, otherworldly mineral formations on the seafloor. These frozen stalactites are both beautiful and deadly, shaping the landscape in silence. Strange gelatinous creatures and rare invertebrates drift through the cold, their forms and behaviors still shrouded in mystery. Some pulse with internal light, others move with an eerie, deliberate grace, hinting at the vast unknown that lies beneath the ice. On the seafloor, intricate gardens of sponges and corals anchor themselves to ancient rocks, filtering nutrients from the frigid water. These vibrant colonies provide shelter for countless smaller species, forming miniature worlds within the greater expanse. Powerful under-ice currents swirl and eddy, sculpting the landscape and transporting nutrients across vast distances. These invisible rivers sustain life even in the most isolated pockets, connecting distant corners of the polar seas. Yet the greatest secrets lie even deeper beneath the thickest ice. Here, subglacial lakes, sealed from the surface for millions of years, harbor ancient waters untouched by sunlight. In these hidden reservoirs, unique microbial life forms persist, drawing energy from minerals and chemical reactions, their existence a testament to the resilience of life in the most extreme conditions. The frozen world beneath the ice is not barren, but a vibrant, dynamic realm, teeming with secrets and wonders that challenge our understanding of what it means to be alive on Earth. The coldest realms of Earth, sculpted by millennia of ice and snow, now stand at the threshold of profound and irreversible change. The future of these cold kingdoms is being rewritten by the accelerating forces of climate change, with consequences that reach far beyond the frozen horizon. Glaciers, once vast and seemingly eternal, are retreating at unprecedented rates. As these ancient ice masses diminish, they release fresh water into the oceans, altering salinity and disrupting the delicate balance of marine ecosystems. The loss of sea ice not only exposes the dark ocean beneath, absorbing more solar radiation, but also weakens the natural barrier that once shielded the polar regions from warmer southern waters. As the reflective ice cover shrinks, the polar regions become heat sinks, amplifying global warming through a process known as Arctic amplification. This phenomenon accelerates the breakdown of permafrost, releasing vast stores of methane and carbon dioxide, potent greenhouse gases that further intensify the warming cycle. The Arctic Ocean, once locked in ice for most of the year, is projected to experience ice-free summers within decades. This transformation will fundamentally alter ocean circulation, nutrient flows, and the timing of phytoplankton blooms, which form the base of the polar food web. The opening of new sea routes may facilitate increased movement of marine species, introducing novel predators and competitors into fragile ecosystems. The influx of temperate species could disrupt established food chains, leading to unpredictable shifts in biodiversity and ecosystem function. For Arctic wildlife, the loss of sea ice is a crisis of survival. Polar bears, walruses, and Arctic foxes are forced to adapt to rapidly changing landscapes, with some populations already showing signs of nutritional stress, declining reproductive success, and increased mortality. Polar bears, in particular, face a future where traditional hunting grounds vanish, as they are compelled to swim longer distances between ice flows, their energy reserves dwindle, and the risk of drowning increases, especially for younger cubs. On land, reindeer and caribou confront new threats as warming temperatures bring more frequent rain-on-snow events. These create impenetrable ice layers that block access to lichen, their primary winter food, resulting in starvation and population declines. Marine mammals must navigate a shifting mosaic of ice and open water. Bowhead whales, walruses, and seals are forced to alter migration routes and breeding sites, while changes in prey availability challenge their ability to find sufficient food. In the Antarctic, the impacts of warming are equally profound. The collapse of massive ice shelves sends shock waves through the Southern Ocean, altering currents that regulate global climate and nutrient distribution. Antarctic marine life, such as icefish, with their specialized antifreeze proteins, are acutely sensitive to even minor temperature increases. As waters warm, these species face physiological stress, reduced reproductive success, and the threat of extinction. Penguin colonies, dependent on stable sea ice for breeding and feeding, are shifting their ranges in response to changing ice conditions. Some populations are declining as traditional nesting sites become unreliable, while others attempt to adapt by relocating to new areas. The so-called Third Pole, the Tibetan Plateau, is also losing its glaciers at an alarming rate. These glaciers are critical for maintaining the flow of major rivers, and their disappearance threatens the stability of downstream aquatic ecosystems and the species that depend on them. As suitable habitats contract, cold-adapted species become increasingly isolated. With nowhere further north or higher to migrate, many face the prospect of local or even global extinction, unable to escape the encroaching warmth. Scientists are observing remarkable shifts in animal behavior. Polar bears are swimming greater distances in search of ice, emperor penguins are altering the timing of their breeding cycles, and Arctic foxes are expanding their diets to include new prey as traditional food sources dwindle. The once stable polar landscapes are now in flux with unpredictable weather patterns, shifting seasons, and altered predator-prey relationships. These changes ripple through every level of the ecosystem, from microscopic plankton to apex predators. The evolutionary adaptations that once guaranteed survival, thick fur, insulating blubber, and biological antifreeze, are now being tested as never before. The pace of environmental change threatens to outstrip the ability of even the most resilient species to adapt. Some species, like the snow owl and musk ox, are shifting their ranges and migration patterns in response to new environmental pressures. Others, such as the Arctic fox, are exploiting novel food sources, demonstrating the remarkable plasticity of life in the face of adversity. Looking ahead, the fate of the cold kingdoms will be determined by the interplay between rapid environmental change and the adaptive capacity of their inhabitants. Some species may persist by evolving new strategies, while others may vanish, leaving only echoes in the snow. The future of these frozen worlds remains uncertain, but their transformation will continue to shape the planet for generations to come. Beneath the endless pale skies of the polar regions, a world of ice stretches to every horizon, vast, silent, and ever-changing. Here, colossal icebergs and sprawling glaciers stand as the silent architects of these frozen realms, their presence both monumental and mysterious. These giants sculpt the landscape in ways both subtle and profound, their influence woven into every ridge, valley, and coastline. The story of ice begins high above, where frigid winds sweep across the polar skies, gathering moisture and driving snow into swirling storms. Each snowflake, shaped by the temperature and humidity of the upper atmosphere, drifts downward, accumulating over centuries in thick, undisturbed layers. Over time, the relentless weight of new snow compresses the lower layers, transforming delicate crystals into dense, ancient ice, each stratum a frozen archive of climate and weather. Glaciers, these slow-moving rivers of frozen water, are set in motion by gravity, But their journey is shaped by far more than weight alone. As they inch forward, the interplay of temperature, pressure, and the underlying terrain determines their speed and path. The base of the glacier, warmed by geothermal heat and friction, can melt just enough to create a thin film of water, lubricating the ice and allowing it to slide, grinding rock into fine silt and carving deep valleys, fjords, and troughs. Each glacier is a living record of time, its layers capturing the memory of seasons, storms, and distant volcanic eruptions, as well as the subtle shifts in temperature and atmospheric composition. Trapped within the ice are tiny bubbles of ancient air, volcanic ash, and dust carried by polar winds from distant continents, offering clues to the planet's past. As gravity urges them onward, glaciers flow, imperceptibly slow, but with the unstoppable force of ages, their movement shaped by the push and pull of temperature fluctuations and the seasonal cycle of freeze and thaw. In the coldest months, the ice tightens its grip on the land, while in brief polar summers, meltwater seeps through crevasses, lubricating the glacier's base and accelerating its advance. Their relentless progress shapes entire continents, scouring the earth, grinding mountains to dust, and depositing mineral-rich debris in their wake. Moraines, ridges of rock and soil, are left behind as glaciers retreat, marking the boundaries of their ancient reach. When glaciers reach the sea, the story of ice takes a dramatic turn, as the relentless force of tides, waves, and shifting temperatures weakens the ice at the water's edge. Immense tongues of ice break free, with thunderous cracks, calving into the ocean and birthing icebergs that drift silently into the polar seas. The process is driven by the interplay of temperature and water. Warmer ocean currents undercut the glacier's base, while frigid winds above sculpt the exposed ice into fantastical shapes. These floating giants, with only a fraction visible above water, become traveling ecosystems, their submerged surfaces shaped by the constant motion of waves and currents. Beneath the surface, cold, nutrient-rich meltwater streams from the ice, mixing with the salty sea and creating gradients that support bursts of life. Algae bloom in the nutrient-rich meltwater, clinging to the ice and thriving in the filtered polar light. These microscopic plants form the foundation of a food web, attracting krill and plankton that swarm in the cold, fresh water. The abundance of tiny life draws fish, seals, and even great whales, all sustained by the nutrients released as the ice slowly melts. As icebergs drift, they fertilize the surrounding seas, fueling bursts of productivity in an otherwise barren expanse. The slow trickle of fresh water and minerals from melting icebergs alters the chemistry of the ocean, supporting life far beyond the reach of the ice itself. Around these icy behemoths, life flourishes in a fleeting oasis, shaped by the delicate balance of temperature, salinity, and light. Icebergs also influence the movement of ocean currents, redirecting cold, fresh water across vast distances and subtly altering the flow of the sea. The mixing of waters shapes temperature gradients, creating boundaries that define the habitats of countless marine species. These gradients, maintained by the interplay of wind, water, and ice, are crucial for the survival of polar ecosystems. Along the coasts, glaciers carve new icebergs in an endless cycle, each event subtly altering shorelines and creating new habitats for wildlife. The ever-changing boundary between land and sea is shaped by the relentless advance and retreat of ice, wind-driven waves, and shifting temperatures. Each carving event exposes new ground, while wind and water erode and reshape the coastline, creating a dynamic, living landscape. New habitats emerge for nesting birds and resting seals, their survival dependent on the ever-shifting mosaic of ice and open water. Beneath the surface, the immense weight of glaciers presses down on the land, forming deep basins that fill with meltwater in summer and freeze again in winter. these hidden lakes, insulated by thick ice, become sanctuaries for unique microbial communities thriving in utter darkness and cold. The cycle of freezing and thawing, driven by seasonal temperature swings and the movement of water, shapes the chemistry and life within these isolated worlds. Microbes here have adapted to survive extremes of cold, pressure, and darkness, revealing the resilience of life in the harshest environments. Meanwhile, as glaciers retreat, they leave behind moraines, ridges of rock and soil that provide fresh ground for pioneering mosses and lichens. These hardy organisms are the first to colonize the barren landscape, breaking down rock and creating the foundation for future ecosystems. Over time, as wind and water continue to shape the land, more complex plant life takes root, sparking the slow return of life to newly exposed Earth. The transformation is gradual but relentless, each season, each storm, each subtle shift in temperature contributing to the ongoing evolution of the polar landscape. Through their constant motion and transformation, icebergs and glaciers shape the fate of entire ecosystems, their influence extending from the highest peaks to the deepest ocean basins. They are both destroyers and creators, erasing old landscapes while laying the groundwork for new ones, their silent work guided by the ceaseless forces of wind, water, and temperature. In the coldest corners of our planet, their legacy endures, a testament to the power of ice and time in the ongoing story of the polar realms. The silent architects of ice continue their work, shaping, sculpting, and sustaining the frozen frontiers of Earth. In these remote, untouched wildernesses, the interplay of wind, water, and temperature ensures that the story of ice is never truly still, forever evolving, forever enduring. And so, the silent architects of ice remain, shaping the destiny of the polar world with every gust of wind, every drop of water, and every shift in temperature, guardians of a frozen legacy that spans millennia. In the farthest reaches of our planet, where the world is swaddled in endless layers of snow and ancient ice, silence reigns with a majesty all its own. Here, sound is not merely rare, it is sacred, a fleeting visitor in a kingdom ruled by stillness. The polar regions are sculpted by what is not heard as much as by what occasionally stirs the air. Across these vast empty plains, silence stretches to the horizon, broken only by the faintest echoes that seem to come from the very bones of the earth. In this world, silence is not emptiness, but a living presence, thick and immersive. It presses against the senses, amplifying every subtle vibration, every delicate shift in the frozen tapestry. When sound does emerge, it is transformed, each note, each whisper, magnified by the hush, becoming something almost otherworldly. The wind, unchallenged by trees or buildings, sweeps across the ice with a voice both fierce and gentle. It sculpts the snow into intricate ridges and sends flurries spinning in wild, swirling dances, their movement a fleeting melody against the silence. At the glacier's edge, the ice itself becomes a living instrument, its surface etched with the memory of centuries. Deep within, ancient ice groans and creaks, the pressure of ages released in sudden, thunderous cracks that ripple through the frozen air. These seismic booms roll across the tundra, echoing out to sea, followed by the crystalline chime of falling shards, each note a testament to the glacier's slow, relentless journey. The sound of ice collapsing is both a warning and a celebration, a reminder of the power and fragility woven into every frozen layer. Beneath the surface, a hidden world of sound stirs in the darkness. The slow, rhythmic drip of meltwater forms a delicate percussion, each droplet carving a path through the silence. Subglacial streams rush in muffled secrecy, their currents weaving through labyrinths of blue ice, carrying the memory of ancient snows toward the sea. Far off, the distant rumble of calving icebergs sends tremors through the water, a deep, resonant drumbeat that signals the birth of new ice islands. In the ocean's embrace, the ice sings, a chorus of high-pitched squeaks and low, haunting moans, as frozen sheets expand and contract with the shifting cold. These sounds travel for miles, weaving a tapestry of vibration that is felt as much as heard. The surface of a frozen lake shivers with distant echoes, each ripple a silent messenger carrying news of movement far away. Amid this natural symphony, the creatures of the polar world have become virtuosos in the art of sound and silence. Emperor penguins gather in tight colonies, their low-frequency calls rolling across the ice, a chorus that binds the flock together and guides lost chicks home through the blinding snow. Beneath the ice, Weddell seals compose elaborate songs, whistles, trills, and clicks that bounce off the frozen ceiling, their messages traveling through the icy water, perfectly tuned to the polar world's unique acoustics. Above the snow, the wings of an Arctic tern slice the silence with a whisper, each beat a fleeting note in the frozen air. The distant bark of a seal or the mournful howl of a lone wolf echoes against the glaciers, their voices lingering long after the source has vanished from sight. Even the smallest inhabitants leave their mark. The faint rustle of lemmings tunneling beneath the snow, a secret ballet hidden from the world above. The soft patter of snowflakes landing on fur and feather is a gentle percussion, a reminder that even in silence, life persists. It is the interplay between sound and silence that shapes the polar experience, each amplifying the other in a delicate, ever-changing balance. In the moments between, the world seems suspended, an endless pause where every sound, no matter how faint, becomes a revelation and every silence a canvas for the next note. Here, silence is alive, a living, breathing entity upon which the music of ice and life is painted in fleeting, unforgettable strokes. In these cold kingdoms, sound is both rare and revered, a treasure to be cherished. It is the voice of the landscape, the language of survival, and the heartbeat of a world where silence is never empty, but always waiting for the next note in the eternal symphony of ice. In the polar realms, light and darkness are not merely opposites, they are elemental forces, locked in a perpetual, mesmerizing ballet that shapes every facet of existence. Each takes its turn to command the stage, sculpting the rhythms of life above and below the ice, dictating when creatures move, feed, and rest. Here the sun is a fleeting visitor, its presence or absence marking the passage of time in ways unimaginable elsewhere. The horizon becomes a canvas painted with the subtle hues of dawn and dusk that can last for hours or even days. As winter descends, the polar night envelops the land in a velvet hush, a silence broken only by the distant crack of shifting ice or the whisper of wind across snow. For weeks, sometimes months, the sun slips below the horizon, leaving the world suspended in a profound, haunting twilight. The boundaries between day and night blur, and time itself seems to slow. Yet, darkness here is never absolute. Even in the deepest night, a faint glow lingers, an echo of the sun's memory, refracted by ice and snow. The snow and ice become mirrors, capturing and scattering every trace of starlight, bathing the landscape in a gentle, otherworldly sheen that seems to pulse with quiet energy. In this long night, the auroras awaken, celestial fires ignited by the invisible interplay of solar winds and Earth's magnetic field. Curtains of emerald, violet, and crimson ripple across the sky, their colors shifting and swirling in silence, painting the heavens with living light. These ethereal displays shimmer and twist, illuminating the frozen expanse below with a spectral glow. The ice reflects their brilliance, transforming the landscape into a realm of shifting color and shadow. Beneath their glow, the snow sparkles as if dusted with diamonds, and the ice pulses with color, a silent festival in a world otherwise shrouded in shadow. For the creatures of the cold, this interplay of darkness and light is more than spectacle. It is a signal, a guide, and a challenge. Arctic foxes and snowy owls become phantoms in the blue-black night, their senses sharpened by the absence of daylight, their movements ghost-like across the snow. Many animals embrace the shadows, emerging only when the auroras flare or the moon glistens on the snow, their lives attuned to the faintest changes in light. Beneath the ice, bioluminescent plankton drift in the dark waters, glowing softly. Tiny constellations that guide hunting seals and curious fish through the inky depths. Then, as the world turns, the sun returns in a slow, triumphant ascent. The horizon brightens, and the first hints of gold and rose spill across the snow. The sky ignites in a blaze of orange and pink, the ice catching fire with reflected light. Shadows retreat, and the landscape awakens from its long slumber. The polar day arrives, a time when the sun refuses to set, circling the heavens in an endless arc, casting a perpetual glow that banishes darkness for weeks on end. The world is bathed in light that never fades. Shadows vanish, and life surges forward in a frenzy of activity and growth, every creature seizing the brief abundance. Birds take wing beneath the midnight sun, their feathers aglow, navigating by a sun that never dips below the horizon. Caribou herds traverse the glowing tundra, guided by the unending daylight, their migration synchronized with the pulse of the sun. Beneath the surface, algae bloom in the sudden abundance of light, fueling a cascade of life that ripples through the food chain, from tiny crustaceans to great whales. Yet in this cycle of extremes, balance is everything. The polar world is a place of constant adaptation, where survival depends on reading the subtle cues of shifting light and shadow. The creatures of the polar kingdoms are sculpted by both brilliance and gloom, their lives a testament to the art of adaptation in a world where neither light nor darkness ever truly lasts. Their existence is a harmony, sung in time with the cosmos, each dawn and dusk a promise renewed, each season a new movement in the endless symphony of light and dark. Here, at the farthest reaches of Earth, the dance of light and darkness is eternal, an unbroken cycle that defines the very soul of the polar wilderness. It is written in the sky, painted on the ice, and reflected in the silent, watchful eyes of those who endure, witnesses to the most profound interplay of light and shadow our planet has to offer. Beneath the dazzling auroras and the endless fields of snow, another world thrives, a world unseen by the naked eye, yet vital to the survival of the polar realms. Here, in the labyrinthine channels within the ice and the frigid waters below, microscopic life forms engineer the foundation of the ecosystem, their silent labor shaping every life above them. Within the honeycomb structure of sea ice, single-celled algae bloom in vibrant communities, their emerald pigments glowing faintly against the pale blue ice. These hardy organisms flourish in narrow brine channels, enduring salinity and temperatures that would extinguish most other forms of life. When sunlight finally pierces the ice in spring, these algae awaken, multiplying in explosive bursts of color that fuel a cascade of life. Drifting just below the frozen surface, diatoms, tiny glass-walled plants, float like miniature lanterns. Their intricate silica shells, sculpted in mesmerizing patterns, capture the faintest rays of sunlight. Each diatom is a masterpiece of adaptation, built to survive the crushing cold, the shifting salinity, and the darkness of the polar night. Together, they form vast, drifting clouds, the first link in a chain that sustains everything from zooplankton to whales. Among these microscopic forests, copepods, minute crustaceans, graze on the algae and diatoms. Their bodies, nearly transparent, are perfectly camouflaged in the icy water. Though barely larger than a grain of sand, copepods are relentless survivors, enduring months of darkness by slowing their metabolism, waiting patiently for the return of light and the algae's resurgence. When the sun returns, they feed and multiply, becoming a living bridge between the invisible and the immense. In the shadowy depths, bioluminescent bacteria and plankton flicker in the darkness, sending signals to one another in pulses of blue and green. These lights are more than decoration. They are beacons, guiding larger creatures through the gloom, and sometimes serving as lures or warnings in the silent hunt for survival. Every drop of polar water teems with these resilient life forms. Their numbers are staggering, millions in a single teaspoon. Together, they process nutrients, recycle carbon, and drive the invisible currents of energy that ripple through the food web. Without them, the polar kingdoms would fall silent, their intricate balance lost. In this realm of extremes, microscopic life is both the architect and the caretaker of the ecosystem. Their resilience echoes through the icy silence, a testament to the power of adaptation on the smallest scale. Though hidden from view, these organisms are the true engine of life in the polar wilderness, their tireless work ensuring that even in the coldest, darkest corners of our planet, the dance of life never ends. Long before the first snowflake ever settled on polar ground, the story of these icy realms was already unfolding, written in the bedrock beneath our feet. The polar landscapes are not merely sculpted by ice, they are the legacy of ancient, restless forces deep within the earth. Beneath the silent snowfields, tectonic plates drifted and collided over eons, their slow-motion dance forging continents and opening vast ocean basins. In the Arctic, the land once lay fused with distant continents, joined in the supercontinent Pangaea. The slow rifting and separation, driven by powerful currents in the Earth's mantle, tore land masses apart, birthing the Arctic Ocean and shaping the jagged coastlines we see today. Far to the south, Antarctica drifted to the world's bottom, isolated by the encircling Southern Ocean. Here, a unique climate took hold. Millions of years ago, lush forests flourished where glaciers now reign. Fossilized wood and ancient pollen, entombed in the ice, whisper tales of a warmer time, when ferns and towering trees thrived under a gentler sun. As the planet cooled, a new era began. The relentless advance of ice sculpted the land, carving deep fjords and broad valleys. Glaciers, like living rivers of ice, ground mountains into dust, their weight pressing the crust downward, reshaping the very bones of the continents. Ice shelves grew outward, floating atop the frigid seas, their immense bulk carving into icebergs that drifted on polar currents. Beneath the ice, hidden mountain ranges and ancient volcanoes slumber. In places, geothermal heat seeps upward, creating pockets of warmth and liquid water in the frozen dark. These rare oases harbor unique life forms and preserve the secrets of Earth's distant past. Each layer of ancient ice is a record, a frozen library chronicling volcanic eruptions, shifting winds, and the breath of vanished atmospheres. Trapped within are tiny air bubbles, holding traces of a world long gone, their chemistry revealing cycles of climate and the slow rhythm of glacial ages. The polar landscapes are a testament to time itself. Their rugged beauty, shaped by fire and ice, tells a story that spans hundreds of millions of years. In the silence beneath the auroras, the Earth's memory endures, preserved in stone, ice, and the shifting continents. A reminder that even the coldest, most remote corners of our planet are alive with history. Beneath the frozen veneer of the polar regions, an invisible force is at work, a ceaseless motion sculpting the fate of ice, climate, and life itself. Here, ocean currents weave through the darkness, their paths determined by temperature, salinity, and the subtle rotation of the planet. These underwater rivers, vast and powerful, are the secret architects of the polar world. In the Arctic, the transpolar drift sweeps ice from Siberian shores across the top of the world, funneling it through narrow straits and out into the North Atlantic. Along the way, the ice is fractured, compressed, and shaped, its journey marked by the interplay of warm Atlantic waters and frigid polar air. Where these waters meet, a delicate balance emerges, Warm currents nibble at the ice edge, thinning flows and opening leads, while cold, dense water sinks, pulling fresh supplies of heat and nutrients from faraway seas. Antarctica, too, is encircled by a relentless current, the Antarctic circumpolar current, the mightiest on Earth. Unimpeded by continents, it girdles the southern continent, isolating it from warmer oceans and trapping the cold within. As this current sweeps past the floating ice shelves, it sculpts their undersides, carving hidden channels and creating vast cavities where ice meets water. Here, tongues of warm, salty water sneak beneath the shelves, accelerating melt and sending plumes of fresh water swirling into the Southern Ocean. These currents are not mere movers of ice, they are the lifeblood of polar ecosystems. In their wake, they stir up nutrients from the deep, fueling blooms of phytoplankton beneath the ice and along its retreating edge. These microscopic plants, thriving in the brief polar light, anchor a food web that supports everything from tiny krill to great whales. As the seasons turn, the advance and retreat of ice and the pulse of currents dictate migrations, breeding grounds, and the timing of life's great cycles. Climate, too, is shaped by this interplay. When ocean currents shift, nudged by winds, melting ice, or distant storms, they can tip the balance between freezing and thawing, altering weather patterns across the globe. A surge of warm water can hasten ice loss, while a change in the current's path might lock cold in place, preserving ice for another season. In the polar night, when the sun vanishes for months, the oceans continue their tireless work, knitting together continents and carrying the memory of distant storms beneath the ice. It is here, in the silent dialogue between water and ice, that the fate of the cold kingdoms is decided. A dynamic, ever-changing dance, hidden from sight but vital to the rhythms of the planet. Beneath the serene expanse of polar ice, a hidden force stirs, a world where fire meets frost in utter secrecy. Here, far from the sun's warmth and shielded by miles of glacial silence, subglacial volcanoes simmer, their restless energy shaping the frozen landscapes above. In Antarctica, a vast network of these volcanic giants lies entombed beneath the ice sheet, their presence revealed only by faint tremors and the subtle warping of the ice surface. When these volcanoes awaken, molten rock and searing gases melt the base of the glacier from below, carving out labyrinthine chambers and vast subglacial lakes. The heat released by these eruptions softens the ice, reducing friction and allowing glaciers to surge forward at astonishing speeds. Plumes of ash and volcanic gases trapped in the ancient ice create dark veins that absorb sunlight, accelerating the melt from above when finally exposed. This interplay of fire and ice can trigger sudden dramatic floods, Jökulhlaups, where torrents of meltwater burst from beneath the glacier, reshaping the landscape in moments. Over centuries, the constant pulse of volcanic heat thins the ice from below, dictating where the ice sheet holds fast and where it yields, subtly influencing the rise and fall of sea levels. Even in the Arctic, volcanic ridges snake beneath the polar ocean, their eruptions forging new seafloor and releasing mineral-rich plumes that nourish unique communities of life in the eternal darkness. Here, the chemistry of the ocean is quietly altered by the breath of the earth itself, fueling ecosystems that thrive on geothermal energy rather than sunlight. These hidden volcanoes are more than geological curiosities. They are silent sculptors of the polar world, their energy a reminder that beneath the stillness of the ice, the planet's deep heart never sleeps. In the coldest places on Earth, the story of ice is forever entwined with the secret fires below, each shaping the destiny of the other in a perpetual cycle of creation and transformation.